Write your heart upon these pages, so I might have you when you're gone. When the darkness comes a-calling, I will know that I am not alone. Yeah, I will know that I am not alone. So lay your head upon my shoulder, lay your troubles on me too, and I will keep a watchful eye on the skies, and if you need me, I will carry you. I said if you need me, I will carry you. Oh love, if you need me, I will carry you.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Ruth.
And since we've learned about Anne Lister the Explorer, we've been wanting to travel in her footsteps. We've already been to Copenhagen and followed in the footsteps of her trip in 1833. We've done part of her Scotland tour with Sibylla MacLean in 1828.
And we love mountains, and if a woman in a dress and hobnail boots can climb to the top of a French mountain, then so can we.
Especially if all she had to eat was 2 hard-boiled eggs.
Hello, my name's Lisa. I'm from Kent in the southeast corner of England, and I came to the group because Mitch kindly sent me an email saying that there were a group of women who were considering climbing Anne Lister's mountain, and did I want to join? And I thought it would be fun, and I thought it would be an adventure, and I thought it would be a really good challenge. And when it was added that they were going to be raising money for the Alzheimer's Society, I was all in, because like many people I know and love someone who's been affected by this condition. The unexpected delight has been getting to know this group and witnessing the camaraderie and the support. And we've had so many laughs over the last year, and at the time when so many people were feeling isolated, it's something I will be forever grateful for having been a part of.
Hello, my name is Mary. I'm based in Galway on the west coast of Ireland, and therefore I make up the Irish part of the team. I feel very honoured and privileged to be part of this group of inspiring women, to literally follow in Anne Lister's footsteps, and to do it for such a worthy cause as well. My main motivation, I suppose, for wanting to join to be part of the climb is to achieve something. And in a way, like many of the women that have discovered Anne Lister recently, it's that motivation and inspiration, particularly for my other Blister Sisters, to want to be part of something. And this is quite something to be part of.
Hey everybody, my name's Heather McLean and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia in the US. And I am one of the lucky women who will be hiking up Anne Lister's mountain this August, we hope. And it all started for me when I saw a posting from Mitch Tucker on Facebook, and it talked about this group of women that were going to make this hike, this journey, and it just sounded so exciting that I didn't waste 1 second reaching out to her to see whether or not there was any space on the team and to see if they might let me join in. And sure enough, a couple days later, she came back and said, yep, we'd love to have you. And from that point onward, I have been welcomed into a group of women that are just absolutely phenomenal. I have made some friendships that I think are going to last a lifetime and take me over the pond many, many times. So whether COVID sets us back a little bit and we have to delay, it won't matter, because I will be in the presence of just this incredible group of women that I'm so thankful for every single day to have them in my life. Join us, follow us on Facebook, watch the journey, because it's going to be great.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hello, I'm Pat Esgate. I'm the lead organizer of Ann Lister Birthday Weekend. And I'm so happy to have you join me today for Ann Lister Birthday Weekend Live. And we are talking to an incredibly inspiring group of women today. Every time I watch that video, I grin like a jack-o'-lantern. I'm so impressed with what they're doing. And I'm so glad to be coming to you today to talk about it a little bit. Before we get started, we have a special shout out today to Jill Liddington. It is her birthday today. And it's a perfect day to have the Blister Sisters on because Jill also climbed Mount Vignemale. And sometime when you run into her, possibly at ALBW, ask her about that story because it's quite something. And also stick around at the end because we do have some announcements. Now, let's get started, though. I'd like to welcome to the screen the people who are joining us today from the Blister Sisters team. And here they come. So we've got Jane Finn, Alex Chapman, Danny Palferman, and Finiel Godbold, excuse me. And the people who are not on screen with us today are Chantel Smith, Mitch Tucker, Ardra Morse. We've already heard from Heather and Lisa, Katie Spenceley, Ruth Crofts, Marie Schultz, Bev Rowley, Jan Monbalu, and Mary Gabahan. So that rounds out the team of 15 people. Before we get going with our present day climbers, Alex is going to chime in here and give us a little background on the person whose footsteps you're following in, Ann Lister, and her famous climb of 1838. Alex, take it away.
Okay. Well, Anne didn't really set out initially to climb Vignemale. She and Anne Walker went to the Pyrenees and they planned a 6-week visit. And they got to Saint-Sauveur, which is a town just outside of the Pyrenees. And Anne engaged the guide who had taken her up Mont Perdu in 1830. So obviously she was intending to do some trekking, some walking. And actually, it was a kind of chance remark, really. She was reading a book about the Pyrenees, and she mentioned that Vignemale could not be accessed from the French side. And her guide, Charles, said, oh, it can. We've had 2 guides from Guedre last year actually found the way up. So this really piques Anne's interest, and she decides that she needs to go up. So she sends Charles to make some inquiries, and he does, and they eventually engage Cazot, the guide, to take them up. But she plans to go up late July initially, but the weather was really, really bad. There was rain, there was a low fog for days, so she had to postpone it. And it wasn't until the 6th of August that she hears that actually somebody else is interested in climbing the mountain, the Prince of Moscow, and he is engaged Cazot for the 8th of August. So Anne, being Anne, and this little element of competition is now there, says, right, we're going today. And so on the 6th of August, they set off from Saint-Sauveur. They pick up Cazot in Guedre, as well as some equipment, some climbing equipment, and they head off for the mountain. Now, when I was reading, well, actually, I transcribed Anne's diary entry for this. I was absolutely astonished, really, at how little she talked about the climb and how much she talked about what she was carrying, what she was actually taking up the mountain. And it was one of the things that she talks about. She talks about a tartan cloak that Sabella McLean had given her. And everything else seems to be, lots of handkerchiefs, lots of socks, lots of stockings, lots and lots of silk in a breast pocket, and another stocking here filled with 100 francs and something else. But she spends a lot of time talking about this enormous amount of equipment, and then says, "Oh well, I was lightly equipped." But the nice part about that was she says, "I was lightly equipped, and my heart was light, but for the thought that I had left poor Anne, dull and perhaps anxious about me for my own and for what I was going to attempt. So Anne Walker isn't going to do the climb with her, but she is concerned about Anne. And, she's concerned that Anne would be worried about her, because for days before that, Anne Lister has had, she's been suffering from biliousness, as she puts it in the diary, which kind of indicates that she may have been suffering from altitude sickness, because they are in the high mountains. So when she gets off, they get up that evening at about 8 o'clock. They reach a cabin, and that's where they're going to spend the night with the guides. So it's Anne and the 4 guides, and they spend the night. Well, I say the night in this cabin. They don't. They have a meal. Anne's had to provide the food for the guides, so they have a meal, and then they sleep in the very cramped quarters. It's kind of head to toe, and of course Anne doesn't sleep very much, and she's awake from I think 2 o'clock in the morning, and they set off. They actually set off to do the final bit of the ascent at about 2:45 in the morning, which I'm not sure about how the other women on here feel about that. I'm hoping that we might just get a little bit more sleep than Anne did. But she describes the climb, and it's we're pretty much literally following in her footsteps. And they get to the top. She's sick on the way, but she does get to the top, and they bury a bottle with their names in it, and they kind of construct a stone tower around that to protect it, and they make their way down. And Anne thinks nothing more of it, really. The next day, that after the mountain, her and Anne go to Spain, and they go to visit a place called Jaca on the Spanish side of the Pyrenees. It's not until a few days later, when they get back to Saint-Sever, that Charles actually tells Anne that the Prince of Moscow has been told by Cazot, the guide from Gedra, that Anne actually didn't make it to the top of Vignemale. So, of course, Anne being Anne, she's not having that. She's not taking that. In fact, it was actually published in a newspaper that the Prince of Moscow had been the first amateur to reach the top. And so Anne is not having any of that. She hires a lawyer, and the lawyer suggests that she withholds payment to Cazot until the whole matter is actually sorted out, which is what she does. And finally, everyone is convinced. She goes to meet Cazot. She buys him lots of cheese and bread and wine. And finally, she gets him to sign a certificate to say that she absolutely did get to the top of Vignemale 2 days before, actually a number of days before the prince did. And so the prince has to accept it, and the newspaper publish an apology, I suppose, and say, actually, an English woman did it 4 days before. So she says that, I'm not interested in the certificate, and I'm not. What matters it? What does it matter to me? I care not for the eclat. But of course, I think her actions show that actually she did care. She really did.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. My guess is that Cazot really had no problem signing that letter, because now he also already has the Prince of Moscow's money, who did the climb because he thought he was going to be the first one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Cazot told him that, so that he thought he was going to be the first one. But he does say, Cazot says to Anne, I apologise, but I did it for my family. So he's living in poverty in the Pyrenees. He's not got a lot of money, so he wants to make the money. Yeah. So
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Now Anne had climbed before. Anne had climbed a few things along the way in her lifetime.
She'd really wanted to climb Mont Blanc in the Alps, but the weather had stopped her, and she never actually did achieve that. But on a visit to the Pyrenees in 1830 to Mont Perdu. She climbed Mont Perdu. That visit, I think she took with Lady Stuart de Rothsay. And she says during this the account of the ascent of Vignemale that no one actually believed that she climbed Mont Perdu, which is the highest mountain in the Pyrenees. So, this is when she says, well, why have I done it? I've done it for my own pleasure. I've done it for my own, my own, sense of worth, I suppose.
Right, but why can't éclat? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I do want to underscore this for our audience out there that may not be as familiar with this, and it was mentioned a minute ago, but Anne did actually do this in skirts with them tied up around her legs with a pair of woolen gaiters on, I guess, right? And hobnail boots?
Yeah. Actually, she does talk in detail about what she was wearing. She describes herself as being dressed for riding, but she's got herself some men's boots in Saint-Sauveur, so they are hobnail boots specifically for the purpose. She takes her crampons with her because Anne pushes her to, Anne Walker. She is taking care of her. She's taking care of her wife. She pushes her to take the crampons, where Anne says, I was nothing loth, as she's prone to. But then, she has like flannel stockings, a flannel waistcoat. She has, all kinds of silk handkerchiefs seem to be, secreted around her body. She has a nightcap in her pocket, which I'm not really sure what she took that for. But
you're not bringing yours?
I don't think so. But I will be bringing my McLean tartan with me. My McLean tartan cloak.
There you go.
Perfect. But she describes how she gets her skirts up above her knees. And I think people who may have seen the recent photographs of the filming of Gentleman Jack 2, the costume department of Gentleman Jack 2 have kind of done this. They've shown how she could have, actually got those skirts above her knees. So it's thankfully none of us are going to have to do it dressed as she was. I'm sure we can manage.
I think someone should volunteer, but in any case, if you're interested, if you take a look through the Facebook pages, you can find, well, actually, I guess you Google it just about anywhere at this point. You'll be able to get a look at what the costume department has done for Gentleman Jack getting up that mountain. We're not at liberty to show it on screen because there's copyright issues around that, but do check it out on Facebook because it's quite something. So now that we know what Anne did, and we know how Anne did it, and now we want to talk about how you came about doing it, how you're going to do it, when it's going to happen, and all the rest of those great details. So who'd like to start here with the question of how things came about? Danny?
Yeah, I can take that one. How it came about, the same as all good ideas do come about. It was in a pub over a pint. We'd gone to see Sally Wainwright at Todmorden Book Festival. And it was Mitch, Tucker, myself, and Alex. We'd all kind of talked through Facebook for a couple of weeks leading up to it, all held our hands up to say that we'd be there and it'd be nice to meet each other finally at the bar afterwards. And I think it was Alex who had been transcribing that section of the diaries. And she had us fully lubricated with beer before she had told us that it would be a really great idea if we should climb a mountain, which of course I was absolutely on board with. Mitch was as well. And from that, it kind of mulled over in our minds, really. And Mitch set about putting a team together. So I thought no more of it, really. And the team grew and it grew and it grew until I think finally there was 15 of us, all coming from different parts of the world. I think we have America, Australia, Belgium, Ireland, and the UK all on board. And obviously remotely.
That's one of the things that really is so inspiring about what you're doing, and really about the community that's blossomed since Gentleman Jack first came on, and now as we've learned more about Anne Lister, it's amazing the reach that we have around the world and how it seems like there are people. It's like making friends with people right next door. It's really been outstanding. So I really do salute all of you for doing this. Did you have any second thoughts the next day after you got rid of the beer?
No, not at all. It sounds exactly like what each one of us would do anyway. We've climbed a lot over lockdown and kind of before. We've done a hell of a lot of climbing, and Vignemale just seems like an extension of that. It's what we're building up to. So it never did seem like a terrible idea. It just felt like a natural thing for all of us to do because we're all keen hikers anyway. And what better than to give ourselves a challenge?
That's excellent. That's excellent. So when is this actually going to happen? What are the projected dates for it right now, pandemic in mind?
Well,
go
ahead, Alex.
Yeah. So we are aiming to climb it on the same date that Anne did. So Anne actually made the ascent on the 7th of August in 1838. And so that's the date that we intend to go. Obviously, with the pandemic, it might not happen this year. We're very aware of that. We're getting news, today about another lockdown in Italy, for example. So it does depend on the situation in Europe. But at the moment, we are going in August. We're going to make the event on the 7th of August. So,
and how long will it take? Tell us about the details of the climb. So where do you start out from? And how long does it take?
Yeah, we're going to be staying in the village of Gavarni, which is the closest village to Vignemale. And we've got a hotel there. And we're going to set off in the afternoon. We actually get a lift up to there's a reservoir d'Ossau, which is in the Val d'Ossau. And from there, we get dropped off there. And from there, we walk up to the Refuge Baselance, which is, right there.
Right there.
Which is a shelter halfway up. A little bit bigger than the one that Anne stayed in, as you can see. But we should be able to have a meal there and a decent night's sleep, not top and tailing, hopefully. So that is going to be from where we get dropped off to there is about a 3-hour climb. And then the next morning, and it will have to be early, I'm not quite sure what time, but we will be setting off for the summit. And this is where the technical climbing comes in. This is where we're going to need crampons because we've got to cross the Glacier d'Ossau, which is the second largest in the Pyrenees. And like a lot of glaciers, it is melting rapidly because of global warming. And that can bring about its own dangers because that can cause crevasses. So that's about another 3 hours to the summit of Vignemale, and then approximately 6 hours to get back down to where we will have left the vehicles. So I mean, it's an incredible challenge. All 3,298 meters of it. It's going to be a really, really tough challenge. Alex,
for the Americans out there, that's over 10,000 feet. They're going up 2 miles.
It is, yeah, that's 10,820 feet, I think it is. Yeah. So, I mean, it's to put it into perspective, I suppose. I have climbed Colorado's highest peak, Mount Elbert, and that's about 4,000 feet higher. But it's still at altitude. It's still going to be incredibly difficult, and it's still a very technical mountain, which is why we're taking the guides up with us. Well, they're taking us up with them, really. We've employed 4 guides from a company called Explore Share, who will hopefully, see that we're safe and ensure that we all get up and we all get down.
So I know that not all of you have climbed before, but some of you have. Jane, you were going to say a little bit about the experience of the group, right?
Yeah. I first met the girls the day after the wonderful memorial service that we had at the Minster. So I'd heard of them in the run-up to that because I was putting the service together, and my wonderful friend Rachel Lappin, who you'll probably know, she said, there's this group of girls this is what they're going to do. I was like, no, what? And she's like, I knew, you're going to want to go, aren't you? So I've always loved walking. I've always loved mountains. So the thought of these group of wonderful women that were planning this, and we all had Anne in common, I'd found myself by default in the middle of all this Anne phenomena, being at the Minster. And so I met them on the night of the memorial service, and then the next day they just gradually all trickled back into the Minster. I was busy taking a service in the middle of the day. I was like, what are they all doing back? They can't keep away from the place. So it was lovely. And for me, I've got a very competitive sports background, and then was disabled completely for about a year in my late 30s. So having learnt to walk again, for me, being able to cycle and walk and run is just every single day. I'm just so grateful that I can do that. So I think for all of us, we have quite a lot of backgrounds in really quite active sports. And I think for quite a lot of us also, we've had like a hiatus where we've not been so fit. And and I know there's some people like Chantal has got a background in marathons, and I'm trying to think what she calls it now, like is it the multi-marathons or ultra marathons?
Yeah.
And she tells us that she's not fit now, but I'm not so sure. And there's Bev, who just seems to manage to keep fit by walking the dog, but I think she's just got an intrinsic fitness that just outstrips the rest of us. But we've all got this sort of background of loving the outdoors, loving walking. We've all been hugely inspired by Anne for different reasons. And so what we've done now is it's just inspired all of us over the last year or so, me sort of latter than the rest of the group, to just get back into training and getting out there and pushing ourselves and getting our fitness back that maybe we once had before. So it's been absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of it has come about just by the personalities in the group and the banter we have, and the shared enthusiasm for so many things that have come together in our different passions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious. I know that not everybody has a mountain or a Magna Via out their back door to practice on. So I know you've also used some less traditional methods of training. Yes? Did somebody want to speak to that? What's that, Neil?
Creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to be a bit creative because we met in I think February, March, and then lockdown happened, so we couldn't go anywhere if we never wanted to, because I'm based in Yorkshire and was not allowed to go 2 miles away from my house. So what we had to do is me and Finial challenged people in the group to different wacky challenges every Tuesday to kind of keep us engaged. So we climbed the height of Snowdon on our staircases, which was really, really difficult. I think it took 2 hours for some of us, but poor Alex and Ruth, they live in a bungalow. So they only have one step to climb a mountain on. And I think they had to climb that step like 7 billion, trillion times. And it took them 7 hours or something ridiculous.
We couldn't even do it together because the step's too small. So we had to do I did it one day and Ruth did it the next day.
Oh my gosh.
Things like that. And Finial was putting together HIIT sessions every morning. So we had a transatlantic HIIT session.
Wow.
I think 1 o'clock UK time. Yeah. Like whatever time that was for you, 7, 6,
early.
7.
Early, right?
And even we had a couch to 5K. So I think Alex and Heather McLean in Atlanta and a couple of other people were doing couch to 5K all together at the same time, as best we could to train together so that we were all included.
What's a couch to 5K?
It's from being in the couch and doing nothing to running 5K over, is it 4 weeks, Alex?
9 weeks. Yeah,
Nice.
over 9 weeks. It's a fitness program that it's produced by the BBC, and you have a kind of celebrity coach, and basically it's 3 runs a week for 9 weeks, and they literally get you from being a couch potato where you can't do anything. The first week starts with a minute of running and 90 seconds of walking, and you repeat that 9 times. And I've done it again this year since we've been in this latest lockdown. And so I'm up to week 8. So I'm now running for 28 minutes. So week 9, which is the end, that's a 30-minute run 3 times a week. And they're hoping that you're at about 5K at that point. Well, I'm a little bit slow, so I'm not quite up to the 5K, but it massively improves my fitness. And I can tell when I do go out and I'm climbing the hills that my fitness is massively improved having done that. Yeah.
I'm sure you must feel that way. And I know that because I get to look in on your messenger group where you're talking about all this stuff, and it really is interesting to see how you're working towards this. I know that there have been some other ways to get fit. Jane, in Halifax, isn't there a group of you that are like running up and down the old bank or something?
We haven't actually managed to run it yet, but if you're setting a challenge, that will be it.
I've come down that twice. I've not gone up it. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's not good in icy weather, that's for sure. It's pretty steep for those of you that know Halifax. It's sort of geographically in quite a bowl. And Old Bank means really just climbing out of the side of Halifax, literally up to the top of Beacon Hill. It was a climb that Anne just went up and over, sometimes a couple of times a day without thinking twice about it. But it is quite tough. So yeah, I went up with Bev. She promised me we're just going up and down once. And 4 times later, I said, that's it, I'm going home, So we said each time we go, we're going to add another one on. So it's like 5 next time. But now we've worked out a really good circuit where we can go up to what's called Trooper Hill, which is just as steep, and do a good circuit, including Old Bank and back over the top where Anne would have gone. And we'll just keep up the training. It's different things for different people. And Mary puts in amazing photos of some of the things she does. She does a lot of wild swimming, and she's out on the most amazing looking landscape. And then Jan just cycles into work every day. So she's just building up this amazing fitness, but she hasn't got any big hills like we've got around Yorkshire. We can just get out on the fells even within minutes from home. So it's easier for us in a way than people that haven't got that sort of landscape, because we've got to get used to those ascents.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I know that one of the things that you mentioned, Alex, was Anne and her feeling bilious at certain times along the climb. And I do know that altitude sickness can be something that has an impact on people. How will you prepare for that, or how will you deal with that?
It's something that's really difficult to prepare for. It can hit anybody. It can hit the fittest person. One thing that is key is actually taking on fluids and ensuring that we have enough fluids to get us to the top and down, because I think that is really one of the key things that you need to keep an eye on at altitude. But otherwise, somebody could be incredibly unlucky and really get hit by it, because it's not pleasant at all. I've haven't suffered badly with it, but when I have been in high mountains, it's that feeling of breathlessness, a headache, that feeling of sickness. But of course, it can be more serious than that. So yeah, we'll just have to really hope that we'll be okay, but make sure we're prepared by taking on plenty of fluids regularly.
I was in Park City, Utah a couple of years ago, and we were staying at a place that was about 9,500 feet above sea level. And they sold little canisters of oxygen to carry with you. They're tiny. They're like little oxygen shots. And I just wondered if that might be something that you guys would stick in your rucksack someplace along the line, or...
You know, I think
Even-
that's something I'm going to look into, Pat.
Yeah.
Training, yeah.
Right? Not a bad idea.
Help. Yeah, not a bad idea at all. Yeah.
And as far as equipment in general is concerned, tell me about how you're preparing for that. Have you all decided on certain kind of boots, socks, etc.? And I also want to talk a little bit about your sponsors, but let's talk about the equipment first. How have you gone about deciding on that?
Well, we're still working on the majority of the equipment.
Yeah.
Obviously, the closer to time it gets, we'll lock down some more of that stuff. But as far as sponsors, we have 3 primary sponsors right now that have just been, tremendous, just absolutely amazing. And as far as, donating Norfolk socks, they've contributed, to us. They just pretty much, hey, let us know what you need.
Nice.
We want you type situation. Think Tank Photo. They do the professional level camera bags, like the backpacks and
Wow.
stuff. They're exact same way. Hey, what do you guys need? Because obviously with the weather and the terrain, just a regular camera bag won't cut it. We needed the waterproofs. We needed the durability. So they were really amazing in helping us out with some bags and some accessory, little packs and stuff like that. Eat Natural bars. They are so good, guys. If you haven't had those, I will not openly admit here in front of everyone that we've already eaten a box.
Since you got there the other day?
Yes. During training, pretty much, training. We've taken care of a nice box of Eat Natural bars. And then again, with the support of the Alzheimer's Association, and Indiegogo, letting us run our campaign and stuff. We've had, tremendous support, and that's something that we're continuing to work forward, towards, more sponsors. So we're definitely open. This is a great cause, and I really think people, see the, what they're gaining by sponsoring us as well, as us them. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
So Ann Lister left a note in a bottle on the top of the mountain and then built a little thing around it. Are those still there? The things that people leave, that kind of stuff, they get buried, are they still up there?
I don't think so. I don't think so. You see them in quite a lot of mountains called cairns that people will put a rock on it when they reach the top. Right. I think it has been stated that there's no evidence of anything Ann Lister left up there. Right. But one thing she did do, she actually lost her McLean tartan shawl up there as well. So, we might come across that.
Alex is going to
the original lesbian brief shawl.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think there's any evidence, no.
Are you taking anything special to leave at the top? Will you make your own cairn up there and put something in it?
Absolutely. I think one of our team, Bev Rowley, she makes some fairly wicked home brew, and I think she's going to brew us something to toast our success at the top. We'll probably leave that bottle up there.
There you go. Right.
And cover it in stones. Not wanting to litter, but we'll cover it in stones with our names in it, as Anne did. But I mean, as Anne did on her trek up there, she only took brandy and eau de vie, which is a kind of fruit brandy, with her, and a little bit of plain water. So I think we'll have that, and 2 eggs, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and 2 biscuits in a breast pocket, and that was it. Yeah. So
I know we all wish that we had some kind of visual representation of Ann Lister, but I have a feeling that she was probably pretty fit, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, along the way, you've also taken some other hikes. You've taken advantage of some things that were going on in the areas that you've been in, and people parts of your crew have come in to join you. Yes, no? Tell us a little bit about some of those other hikes you've done.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah, well, we actually, Danny, Mitch and I signed up to do some of the official Alzheimer's Society treks. They do something called Trek 26, which was a 26-mile trek. We planned to do a couple of those in the Brecon Beacons in Wales and in the Lake District. And unfortunately, they, fell foul of COVID and the lockdowns. So they didn't take place. But because we had arranged the one that was going to take place in the Lake District, it was pre the second lockdown, and we got as many of the Blister Sisters together as we could. I think we were only missing three or four, and it was the wettest day of 2020. I've never seen rain like it. It was biblical, but we still managed to do a 13-mile walk in that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was the wettest day on record since records began. That actual day we went out, not the day before, not the day after, the actual day we went out that day. I think it was the wettest since they actually started taking records.
Do you think Anne was trying to tell you something?
Yeah, go home, get indoors.
Yeah, stay dry, right? And so you've actually not had a chance to be all together at the same time?
No, not yet. Chances are the first time we're together will be when we're actually doing the trek. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's been the benefit of the chat, because we feel like we've really got to know each other, even though we haven't met, and it'll be wonderful when we can meet the others. But just keeping up those conversations and really getting to know each other is actually going to be really key to the group dynamics when we're actually climbing. So it sort of feels like we know each other anyway. It'll still be wonderful when we meet.
Yeah, it really does. The conversations that you carry, and obviously I'm not looking at them all the time, but I do check in now and then. And the conversations that you carry on really are, it's like watching a group of friends who've known each other forever, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. The humor and the seriousness of some things. And, as I've said before, I just find it incredibly inspiring. Let's talk a little bit about what this means to each one of you. Some of you, we heard from a couple of your crew in the trailer, but Jane, how about you? What does this mean to you?
It means so many different things. I'll try and be concise. I think with my love of walking, of mountains, and long distance walking, and finding myself in the middle of all of this Anne phenomena, working at the Minster and having met hundreds and hundreds of women who've pilgrimaged to the Minster in search of all sorts of things to do with Anne and how she's inspired them. It just felt absolutely amazing to be able to be on this group of women and actually doing this Ascent, hopefully, and being part of that. And I think everything about Anne was that she said yes to life.
Yeah.
And you just, I don't know whether everybody else feels the same, but you just feel like you want to say yes. These girls are doing this. And it's like, yes, I'll come. Can I come?
Yeah.
So it's about actually a slightly different attitude to life as well. Yeah. And this represents that actually we can just say yes to things and tackle things that we might not have thought we could. And it's also like a real tribute, I think, to all the women that I've met who've come through the Minster doors and I've chatted with, or some I haven't yet met, but that I've spoken to over the phone. So it's a tribute to all of those that have actually done their journeying to Halifax, that I will journey out from Halifax to somewhere where Anne walked and walk in her steps.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar, Jane Finn is the curate at Halifax Minster. And I've had the pleasure of being in the Minster with her and talking with her a couple of times. And hopefully when you get there, you'll be able to find Jane there. And it really is a treat to just sit and talk to her about yourself and Lister, the Minster, her life there. It's quite special. And you really put that well, Jane. Thank you. How about you, Faniel? What will this mean to you?
Oh, wow. Echoing Jane, I mean, it's just so many positive elements, involved, from walking in Anne's footsteps, being a part of that, part of history is just absolutely amazing. But then you have the challenging part. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So, absolutely, we're going to check all those boxes. Let's climb a mountain. Let's do, all that stuff. But again, what you said a while ago, Pat, when reading through our chats and stuff, meeting this group of people, even if you had a question in the beginning of, am I doing this? Once you get involved, it feels like I've known these guys forever. Yeah. I mean, this hasn't been, just a little over a year. I mean, this feels like family at this point. So we're in it together, and, and we've made all the contingencies, we're all going up. We're going up. And I've actually threatened a few, we will drag you to the top. We're all going to make it. It's just that camaraderie at this point. Obviously, it started with the historical aspect and being a part of something, really meaningful. But now it has evolved into a family adventure.
Right. It's wonderful. And Danny, how about you?
Probably quite similar to the other guys, actually. I was completely swept away with the Gentleman Jack effect from the beginning.
Yeah.
And ARBW and everything else. I was completely caught up in that.
Yeah.
And when, the idea came about to climb a mountain, I had no idea of the year that we have ahead. And I've had such a weirdly wonderful year full of kind of positives and negatives and lots of stuff that's happened. And having this purpose and having this wonderful kind of group of people around me, pushing us forward no matter what. And I just think the journey has been so wonderful. And I just think that climbing the mountain in August is going to be such a wonderful feeling of finally getting to do it and getting to do it together, all of us, finally.
Right. Because it's all part of the journey. Since day one, it's all part of the journey. Getting to the top is, and it's not the end of it either. Alex, you had already said something. Did you want to add anything else, or should we move on to?
Well, I would kind of reiterate what everybody has said there. My wife Ruth and I have been very privileged to have followed in Anne's footsteps on other trips. And this was an extension of that. But it's much more than that. It's become much more than that for me. About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I have to say that I haven't felt anything like that throughout, this whole terrible 2020. And that's because of this group, and the support, the camaraderie, just, they are extraordinary women, all of them, and they've all got a story. And do you know what? I am privileged to be part of this group, and that's what's going to mean the most. Actually, getting there with this fantastic group of women.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it is inspiring, and all this inspiration is going to be captured on film. Well, I guess not if it's digitally, anyways. So, Faniel.
It's going to be captured on something. On something.
Tell us about the documentary.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the idea of the documentary didn't actually start with documentary. This was the documenting of the climb was going to be a part of another documentary that Chantel and I are doing about the community coming together.
Yeah.
So the more engaged we got with the group, the more people's stories came out, their individual reasons of why they wanted to be involved. The more trainings we planned, the bigger it got. We realized that we couldn't capture all of this information in a 2 or 3 minute little clip that was going to be a part of something else.
Right.
So the idea came about, hey, this is its own documentary. This is its own story. So that's how that came about.
Oh, that's great. And I want to encourage our listeners. There is a site, an Indiegogo site, to donate.
Yes.
And there we go. A-lister on Indiegogo, and to help these women get that documentary together. And once it is together, I want to invite you to screen it at ALBW, at whichever ALBW it's ready for.
Yes, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank you.
And by that time, you'll also be able to tell us about whatever adventures that you actually had up there on your way up. So that'll be great to watch. I'm just so excited about what you all are doing. So we are at question and answer time. Are you ready?
Oh, sure.
Let's see what we've got here. What's next for the Blister Sisters? Will you keep climbing after this?
Absolutely.
I think it's been floated about that we also want to do Mont Perdu, which is another mountain that I'm climbed. So maybe if I can encourage everybody else to do it too, that might be next.
Wonderful.
I'm really keen to go to Georgia as well, and actually to kind of trace the footsteps of that final trip of Anne's. So who knows? We'll be planning things for many years to come, hopefully.
Right, hopefully, and with season 2 coming out, Lord knows what else we're going to learn about that might be fun to do. So, let's see. This is from Lucia Falzari. Is there a sign or plaque at Vignemale to commemorate Anne's climb that you know of?
No, I don't think so.
No, one of the peaks on the way up is actually named after her. It's called Col de Lady Lister.
Yeah.
But there's nothing, I don't think, to actually show that on the ground, if you like.
Would you think about taking something up there specific to Anne Lister, placing it there?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
As long as it's not too heavy to carry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ruth will carry it.
Yeah, let's let Mitch do it. This is from Janneke van der Weyden. Will you walk the Lister Pass? Are we talking about? I'm not sure what that is. That might be the same peak.
As far as we can see, we are approaching it from the same direction, which is actually, if you look the popular picture of Vignemale, it's actually approaching from the left, which I think is a good way to approach all aspects of life. But she talks in the diary entry about climbing a chimney, and we're not doing that part, but we are going up the Glacier d'Ossau, which is what Anne did. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. And let's talk a little bit about Anne Walker. Did Anne Walker ever climb anything with Anne that you all are familiar with?
Yes, she did. Even in the days leading up to this climb, she did a lot on horseback. Anne Walker, and in fact, Anne Lister, she gets to beyond where she spends the night. She does it on horseback, and then she walks the last part. So Anne Walker was happier being on the horse, but she did do some of the smaller climbs with Anne. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we learn something new about her all the time, which is really quite wonderful. Okay, so that is it for our questions today. I really want to thank all of you for coming on and taking the time to share all this with our audience. And as I said, I'm looking forward to seeing you at ALBW and giving you some time to talk about how this all turned out. And I can't congratulate you enough on your efforts, really. Quite phenomenal.
Thank you. Pat.
So with that, we're going to bid you adieu. And see you soon back at the Messenger group. So in the meantime, that really is something I'm astounded by what they're doing. And I thought about it for about 15 seconds, and I'm not as fit as I was, 20 years ago. So there's no way I'm going up there. but I may be down at the bottom when they get down because it's going to be quite a celebration. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the other things that are coming up. ALBW, we are going to be making some announcements about that next week on a special ALBW Live. And there it is, ALBW update. That's next March 20th, same general time, 12 noon Eastern Standard, 5 Greenwich Mean Time. And at that time, we're going to talk about what is happening with ALBW, when ALBW is happening, and we'll give you a little tiny taste of things to come. So without belaboring that any further, tune in next week to get more of those details. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the other ALBW lives that are coming up, because we have some really fun things coming up very soon. On Anne's birthday, on April 3rd, we're going to be talking to Helena Whitbread and Anne Choma about Anne's days in Paris. And what makes this especially wonderful is that many years ago, Helena and Anne Choma went to Paris together so that Helena could walk Anne, the young Anne Lister student, through Anne Lister's footsteps in Paris. So what could be more interesting than watching those two Anne Lister icons talk about that time in that fabulous city? We also have an ALBW Live coming up with Pack with Potential. And if you're not familiar with Pack with Potential, please look them up. It's packwithpotential.com. This group of women has dug right down to the very basics of just about everything you could possibly want to know about Anne Lister. Every day they're adding something to their website. It's just an amazing compilation of research and information. So please take a look at that, and we will be having them on. We also have a fascinating new look at Eliza Reign, courtesy of someone who's doing a graphic novel about her and has uncovered some really interesting new information about Eliza. And as you all know, we don't have that much about Eliza. So this is an interesting new aspect for her. We'll also be bringing in Janet Lee to talk about her book, The Gentleman Jack Effect. That's going to be later on in the spring, early summer. And then we also will be having an interview with the documentarian who is putting together a BBC documentary about that same thing, the effect that Gentleman Jack has had on women around the world. So we have a lot of great stuff coming up. So in the meantime, I'll see you next week, hopefully. I want to thank my team. I want to thank Steph Galloway, my intrepid producer. Also, Kat Williams, also in the background in our team, and Cheryl McDonald. And so in the meantime, I do want you to, and I don't have my mask nearby today. So in any case, I want you to stay safe. I want you to wear your mask. Have a great week and come back next week to hear all about ALBW.